All right, guys, welcome to Dual Credit Economics. Um, Today's your first lesson, and I just wanted to start off by telling you what economics is. So, a lot of people stumble into this class and they think, okay, this class is all about money, or am I going to invest in the stock market, or I don't know, how do I run a business? This class is none of those things. Well, I mean, we do talk about money, and we will talk a little bit about the stock market. We will talk a little bit about business, but that's not what economics is about. And if you put economics in a box like that, you're not going to get everything that you could out of this class. This class is not just going to help you if you decide to run a business or if you decide to invest in the stock market. The principles that you learn in this class will change the way that you think and make decisions. Okay, that's big promises. Okay, so let's talk about what economics is. Before we define economics, I want to deal with two conflicting problems that we have. People tend to have unlimited wants. You give them one thing, and then a few months later they go, "Oh, but if I could have a better thing." Um, you know, we get these super fast computers, and then we go, but what if they could do even more? We constantly have these wants, and you could argue that this is a bad thing. In a lot of ways, we could argue this is a good thing. Before, if someone lost a leg, we just said tough taters. Enjoy your stump. But then we started coming up with different stuff. Peg leg, and then some prosthetics that were kind of functional. But we've gotten to the point where you can have an almost functional leg, and you could argue, well, it was fine before. Well, was it? So we have these unlimited wants, and you can argue whether or not it's a good thing, but it's pretty universal. Okay, that we have these unlimited desires. And that would be fine, except for the second issue, which is we have scarce resources. We don't have enough to satisfy every human want because these human wants just keep piling on and piling on and piling on. So if you were to say, hey, what's the central thing that we're concerned with in economics? It would be scarcity. Okay, scarcity is going to be the central key to this course. So, because we have these unlimited wants, because we have this scarcity, we have to make choices about how we're going to use these resources to satisfy these wants. And we call these decisions trade-offs. And if you've lived long enough, you know that these trade-offs are everywhere. And if you don't think you're experiencing trade-offs, you're probably not paying attention. Everything that you get has something that you give up. So economics is the study of how societies manage these scarce resources. Now, one of the big ideas that we're going to cover today is this idea right here. The cost of something is what you give up to get it. Now, that's a huge mental shift that you need to make to understand what we're talking about in this course and really to navigate life well. If you're thinking of cost in terms of dollars, that's only going to take you so far because there's a lot of times where the expensive thing is actually less costly than the cheap thing. And we'll talk about how that could be. So, first bit of terminology we're going to introduce here is opportunity cost. Now, I'm going to rephrase this in a second, but this is the highest valued alternative given up to obtain something. So basically, if I want to get this, what is the most valuable thing I have to give up? Okay. So, for example, right now, I am up at school and I am recording videos so I can be an awesome teacher. So, what am I giving up? Well, I could be watching TV. I could be hanging out with my kids. Um, I could be practicing guitar. I could be working on my computer programming skills. Um, I'm giving up lots of things. I would say the highest valued thing that I'm giving up is time with my family. So the cost of me recording this video right now, being up at school, is spending time with my family. Okay, it has nothing to do with money. This is completely free um, from a monetary perspective, but I'm giving up this time. So one of the big lessons that you learn in econ is that nothing is free. Nothing, nothing, nothing is free. You're always going to be giving something up. Now, you might go, well, there's plenty of things that are free. Um, but and and when I say that nothing is free, I'm not saying that things that don't have a monetary cost aren't worth it sometimes. But the example that I always like to give is, let's say that tonight I'm going to throw this huge um, get together at my house and I'm going to make spaghetti for everybody. Okay. And anybody who comes gets a free dinner. Okay. You coming? So, oh, like, heck yes, I'm coming. But, you know, some of y'all would say, no, thanks. Well, why? It's free. No, it's not. What are you giving up to come to Mr. McClung's house and get this free spaghetti dinner? Well, you got to drive over there. So that's time, that's gas money. Um, Plus, you're having to hang out with Mr. McClung in your spare time, which is probably not what you want to be doing. And maybe you don't like spaghetti. So, like, you're giving up the opportunity to eat something that you'd rather be eating to eat Mr. McClung's kind of mediocre spaghetti. I'm not a very good cook. I'm sorry. Um, so, real quick, let's talk about some big costs that people forget. And I'm going to go with four. This is not an exhaustive list. Obviously, there's money. That's usually not something that people neglect to think about. But this is the biggest one. If you learn nothing else in this class, I mean this. If you learn nothing else in my class, you need to learn that time is valuable. You've heard people say, well, time is money. Time is more than money. Time is everything. Time is your most scarce resource. If you had more time, you could probably get whatever other resources you wanted to get, but you need more time. Time is the most valuable gift that someone can give you, and time is the most valuable gift you can give someone else. One of the things that wealthy people do is they buy time. Some of the most wealthy people in the world, one of their first purchases is a private jet. And it's not because they're trying to show off and be fancy. It's because they need to go all these places and do all these different things, but it takes a lot of time to go through an airport and do all this stuff. So private jets are basically buying hours of their life. One of the other costs that people forget is space. So I want you to think for a minute, why do people donate so much stuff to Goodwill, Salvation Army, Manor House, wherever? And part of that answer is, benevolence. They just want to do a good thing. But if we're honest about it, one of the reasons that we do this is to clear up space in our house. Okay, I only have so much space in my house. If I wanted to get more space, that would cost me more money to get this more space. And I've got all this junk. Now I could sell the junk, but that takes another scarce resource, which is time. So I can gain space and time by just giving away all of these things that are in my house. So that's one of the reasons why people do all that. So space and time are big costs that people forget. There's also social costs. Um, so if you take certain actions, um, there are certain actions that at first glance economists would think, oh, well, anybody would do this thing because it benefits them. Well, maybe it benefits them, but then everyone hates them. Like it gets them something, but then all of a sudden no one wants to hang out with them, or they look at you ugly, or they say bad things about you. So there's these social costs. Um, I also didn't list this, but there's also psychic costs. Okay, guilt. Okay, stuff where yes, benefit materially, but it makes you feel bad, so you don't want to do it because it's this psychic cost. Finally, brain power and effort. Um, Now, y'all are all students, so you understand this, where there's just this limit sometimes where you're like, I'm just exhausted. I don't have the energy to do this, 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 and this. And so something has to give. Sometimes it's your schoolwork. Sometimes you have to quit the job that you were doing. Um, Sometimes you're maybe not able to devote the energy to your hobby that you want. Okay. Here's the big idea: everything costs something. You can't have it all. You can't get everything you want. Um, some of the most successful people, however you want to define that, some people who rise to the top of their fields, a lot of them are really lousy parents because they don't spend any time with their kids. And I'm not saying that as an excuse. Like, people make these choices. Um, But you have to acknowledge that if you want to spend all this time and energy and stuff over here, there's going to be costs to that. Okay. Um, so when you acknowledge those things, whenever you start to understand these trade offs, you start to make better decisions. And that is what economics is all about.